back in the woods.
Morning guys, Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School. What I thought I would do this morning real quick is we've got a new tarp on our website that's made by a company called Terra Equipment. This is the Adventure Tarp 2. It's a company out of the UK that we found at the Outdoor Retailer Show. This is a very, very common man price tarp. It's about $56. It's less than 60 bucks. It is almost 10 by 10. It's over 9 foot one way and over 9 foot the other way. It's like 9 foot 10 by 9 foot 6 or something like that. But it's got really, really nice features to it that I wanted to go over with you and show you. The way this thing's set up is it only comes into one color, dark green. It has grommets and tie outs, and they are, or grommets and loops I should say, but the thing is sewn in so many ways. I don't see any way you could possibly rip this out. The grommet is actually in the webbing. Okay, so if you look at this tarp, the grommet is actually pressed into the webbing that creates the loop, the tie-out loop right here. That is a heavy-duty system. It's got a reinforcement right here in the silnai, behind the silnai, that's also sewn into that corner, and it's double sewn all the way around the outer seam as well. This is just a really, really good all-around tarp at a common man price. It's that ripstop silnai, probably silicone impregnated because it's got some silicone backing on it, looks like on this side. But I'll tell you what, for less than 60 bucks, for a tarp that's almost 10 foot by 10 foot, this thing is a dream. Another feature I want to talk to you guys about real fast is this thing has a tie out right in the middle of the ridge. In the center of the tarp, or just off center of the tarp, there's a tie out right here on the ridge that's got a flap it's connected to. So it's not connected to the tarp itself as far as within the seam. It's actually a separate piece that loop is sewn into to pick that thing up off the ground for more versatile uses. So I thought what we'd do today is, instead of starting with this thing on the ground and setting it up, I thought we'd start with it set up and kind of go through it in reverse order so I can show you what I did to set this configuration up. This is a very simple configuration that could be made into either a full-blown pup tent style, open on both ends, to dropping one side down in the middle and closing it off on 3 sides, which is very comfortable if you've got a woman or you've got children in the woods with you. Sometimes they like a little bit more privacy. You can give that them very easily just by dropping that one side down, and then you can hang a blanket over the front if you wanted to, or you could drop this front down as well. And that's what we're going to talk about first, is the front of this thing and how I factored this in before I staked it out. Then we're going to talk about that center pole, or that center rope I should say, that center tie out, and how I tweaked that in, and a little trick I used with a toggle to set that up and make it easily up and down adjustable. Okay, so what I did here was I just started with the tarp basically on the ground. I strapped the center pole in, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And then what I do is I just pick the front of this tarp up to about waist level, because that's about what I want for height. So I'll pick it up to that waist level, and I'll put one stake in the ground, pick the whole thing up to waist level, stretch that stake out sideways, kind of like this or like this. I'll stretch it out to the height I want it, and then I'll eyeball where that next stake needs to go, and that'll help me put that stake in. But the first thing I do is I tie the center out, and I'm going to show you how I do that real quick. Okay, so to set up this tarp, the first thing I do is I tie off my center point. And there's a center point right in the middle of this tarp along the ridge line in one direction where the seam is, but it's raised up above the seam, and that's what I really like. It's not sewn into the seam, so you're not going to be prone to get leaks there. What I do with that is really simple. I take a piece of rope, and this is the same piece of rope I use for a ridge line normally, and I'll use this for my support line. And what I'll generally do is I'll just take a loop. You can see this has got a tie-out loop that's already sewn into it. And I'll take a loop and I'll go through there just like that, and I'll put a toggle in there. And what that does is that gives me the ability to lift this up, very simple, or pull it down. And you can see that toggle just rolls in there. It creates a roller in there to adjust that. And I'll get that thing to where it's about waist level at my belt. And then all I'll do is I'll take a half hitch on one side of that toggle, just like this, and a half hitch on the other side of the toggle, crossing it over just like that. Now that's secure, it's not going to move, but it's very easy to get undone if I need to adjust it up or down. Then what I generally do is I'll find the center of my tarp and I'll figure out where I want my stakes. I'm going to back this camera up a little bit now on this thing and tweak it down just a shade. Alright, so the first thing I do is I generally stake out the two sides. And this is running right along that ridge line right here. And all I've done with this is I've taken a piece of paracord. You can see what I really like about this tarp is the way it's set up. It's got a V support in here that's made out of some kind of a heavier mesh. And then it's got a sewn in tie out right here with a loop. And it's got a grommet stamped right into the middle of that tie out. So that grommet is supported by the tie out. It's supported by this V that's sewn in here, and it's supported by the tarp, and that's sewn all the way around in a triangle. You're not going to rip that grommet out very easily. Now I just shoved the paracord loop up through that to pull it over the top because this grommet or this tie out right here is not big enough around to jam a stake into unless you were going to use a metal stake of some kind. Then you probably could get it in there, but with the ABS stakes it won't go in there. So I'll take that thing and I'll keep that pretty well straight up and down and pull it out just a little bit, and I won't pound this in all the way because I want to adjust this as I go. And then I'll go to the other side and do the same thing. I always pound my stakes in at about a 30-degree angle, going this way so that they're in toward the loop. And once I get that, then I can start the construction of the rest of the shelter. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here on this back side, considering that we're going to have the front the other direction, and we'll pull this out fairly tight. And the same thing, we're going to put a stake in there in that same type of paracord loop at about a 30-degree angle. And then we'll do the back side exactly the same way. Or the opposite side, I should say. Now you can see this tree's interfering a little bit with what I want to do here. That's not necessarily a big deal. I could move it up a little bit if I was worried about it, but I'm really not. I'll just wrap it around the tree. And then I've got this center one here that needs to go down as well. So I'll go ahead and tack it in real fast. And make it pretty tight. Now, as I said, you can adjust this as you go really easily. So now I'm going to go to the front, and we're going to build the front of this shelter. And you can see what we've got right now is we've got what almost looks like a pup tent right here with three sides. One side needs to be pulled a little bit tighter. Now, this is where I'm going to look and see height-wise where I want this. And I'll stake one of these out first, and I can eyeball that pretty well by running the same line that the rest of my shelter's in. If I run this same line right here and put that in, that'll pretty much give me what I want. And the same thing over here on this side. Again, if I run that same line, keep this side tight. Now I have this loose part in the middle right here. And this is the part that's going to be lifted up. So now what I'm going to do is back this camera up for you guys. Now I'll just take a pointed stick or a hiking pole or whatever the case may be, and I can come in here, lift this up, and just punch this in by friction, just like this. And that'll hold up the front end of my shelter. Now I can walk through there now and make adjustments places where I want to that are loose, like on that back side a little bit. I can spread this side out just a little bit more to give myself a little bit more room in there. But that's real simple, quick setup. It's a really good way to set this Terra tarp up that will give you almost a tent and not just a fly or a lean. You can obviously make those shelters too. The advantage with this center tie out is it gives you the ability to make more of a tent if you want to. Okay, so now that we walked through that, it's not perfect by any means. I need to walk around and tighten up all the stakes, but you can see it gives you a pretty big area inside there, more than enough room for 2 people. And like I said, the thing weighs almost nothing for what it costs and what it does, the utilitarian purposes of it. There's no way you can beat that thing for less than 60 bucks. Guys, I appreciate you joining me for this quick review video on the Terra Adventure 2 tarp that we're now carrying on our website. I hope you enjoy it as much as I think I'm going to. Definitely an everyday user tarp. It's not just an emergency tarp. Heavy duty, UK manufacturer. So far I'm impressed with it. I hope you will be too. I thank you for joining me for this video. I thank you for your support. I thank you for everything that you do for me, for my family, for my school. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can.